Have you ever thought about the life of King Saul? He was chosen by God to be king over Israel. Yet, through a series of disobedient acts, he lost the kingdom and became a true tragedy. He was called to greatness and was given a new heart by God in 1 Samuel 10:9. It says this: When it happened that he turned his back to leave Samuel, God changed his heart. We can see God's intentions that if Saul obeyed, he would have been and had an everlasting kingdom established after him. And today we would be talking about how Jesus came through the genealogy of Saul instead of King David. In 1 Samuel 13:13, we see this. Samuel says to Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God, with which I've commanded you. For then the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever." Yet, instead of walking in the blessings of God, we see in his final hours that he sought out a witch and died on the battlefield in a tragic death. So, how did he go from God's chosen to seeking help from a witch and dying in humiliation? And what can we learn from his life? In 1 Samuel 10, we see Saul is chosen by God to be king. But when he was chosen by Lot, they couldn't find him because he was hiding out of fear in the luggage area. Then there was a war. Saul needed Samuel to offer the sacrifice before the battle with the Philistines. Samuel was late, and Saul saw his army melting away before him. Saul feared even more of his men leaving, and he feared the enemy as well. So he offered the sacrifice himself. Then in another time, God asked Saul in Samuel 15 to destroy the Amalekites along with all that they owned. The people, of course, would not want to destroy the animals, for they were the spoils of risking their lives and going to war. Saul listened to the people rather than God, and so disobeyed God again and spared the animals. Because of all these acts of disobedience, Saul knew his kingdom would not last, and so lived in fear of David, who was God's replacement for him. Though on two occasions when David had the opportunity to kill him, he chose not to do so. And looking through his life, Saul was characterized by fear. Unfortunately, I've seen many believers living a lot like Saul. God has called them to be a son or daughter of God and has anointed them to be his representatives, but because of fear, they don't live a victorious life in Christ. When we look at each instance where Saul disobeyed, the situations were very difficult, and it's very understandable why Saul made the decisions which he did. In the end, he feared man more than God. Many believers justify the reasons for why they haven't obeyed, don't witness, and refuse to minister to others. Whatever the reason, in the end, they are simply living in the fear of man versus the fear of God. If they continue, they will end up as an anointed believer who is living a powerless life and on his way to being a tragedy. I want to encourage you this day. If you have been given to a spirit of fear, press into God and choose obedience. And as you do, you'll find the grace and the power of God sustaining you. Blessings.